All right, I'm good on my end.
Welcome, you fools, to this episode of Same Mom, Different Dads, a show about anything and everything, pretty much anything we want to talk about from the week, personal stuff, political stuff, science stuff, ghost stuff. I don't know. What other kind of stuff? All kinds of stuff. So today we will be talking about insert title here. I don't know. I've been telling my wife about your, I can just say Marcy, you know who she is,
Yeah.
about your Dix.com story.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, don't go to Dix.com.
Yeah, Ty was like, wait, whoa, I want a basketball, man, not balls. Balls, man.
Oh, man, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still like that, but yeah, this is probably 10 years ago. Probably, yeah. And I was just like, yeah, Dix.com is what I'm looking for. I forget. I think I was looking for I think I was looking for some stuff to buy for fighting as I was first getting into Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what is it? Like, no.
What
Abort
are they
mission.
selling?
Yeah, I was
like, I know sex sells, but this is bad.
Damn, this is the new store they have in Eastgate? Like, oh my goodness, where I lived in Cincinnati. That's a good one.
Oh man, there was something I want to talk about. Okay, real fast. Okay, so I started watching the holiday movies that made us on Netflix.
Me too, dude. When did you start watching it?
Yeah, last night.
Me too, dude.
Yeah, really?
I swear.
Yeah. So the episode on Elf is really good. It was really fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like all that stuff on the streets in New York, totally guerrilla style, ad-libbed. What's the other word I'm looking for? Not ad-libbed, but what is the word I'm looking for?
Improvised?
Improvised, yes. Improvised, yeah. But yeah, like the whole Santa Claus, like Santa. Oh, not Santa. Like that was just some random guy.
Oh, yeah. and when they showed that clip, he's looking at him like, who the hell are you? Like that was completely genuine.
Man, yeah. I love it.
Yeah,
it was so
that
good.
surprised me because I thought that that it would have been like that. They always have just paid extras, just walking through and
off. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
But
no, they could only afford to shoot there for a few days, and then that was it.
Right?
Yeah,
and none of them had ever done a film like that before. You know what I mean? I was
like, they were all what? Yeah, they were all really green. Like almost everybody they got involved is really green. Even Jon Favreau, who, like, obviously in retrospect, like, oh, it's Jon Favreau. That guy's amazing. But at the time, it was like Jon Favreau directs. Like, he's been in a few movies, but nobody realized that the guy actually could direct, which I thought was amazing. And now he's like one of the top billed directors in Hollywood.
Incredible. I didn't realize he did all those movies.
What was that?
I didn't realize he's done so many movies.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Avengers and all that stuff. I didn't realize he was the one that directed all that.
He produced a lot of the Avengers. He directed 2 of the 3 Iron Mans, I believe. I think it was Iron Man 1 and 3. I can't remember if he directed 2. But when he took on Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie, he said he would not direct Iron Man unless he got Robert Downey Jr. as Stark. So he was the reason we have like the perfect person for Tony Stark, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And have you watched Mandalorian yet on Disney Plus?
No, I haven't.
I'm going to give you my login. You would love it. It is so good.
Okay. I've had a few people tell me that, and I'm like, yeah, I've never really been into stuff like that. They're like, you would love this. If you give me your login, I will 100% watch it before next week, and I will report back.
It is so good. Marcy's not a Star Wars fan, like, at all, but she loves it.
Really?
Yeah, she's really into it. She's really enjoying it. It's like, so imagine a Western, so like Clint Eastwood. Okay, imagine Clint Eastwood in the Mandalorian armor in the Star Wars universe. And that's how it's shot. It's shot like a Western.
Really?
Yeah. And they do it really, it's directed by Jon Favreau. So written, directed,
Yeah.
produced by Jon Favreau. I mean, they bring in other directors and stuff, but it's a Star Wars Western, and they pull it off so well. Like even when he's walking around, they have like, because of his armor, they mimic the sound of like spurs. Like, dude,
Really?
it's brilliant, man. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll have to
Yeah.
check that out. It sounds interesting. Yeah. It's funny you say that too, because I've been out shopping here lately in the last like week since they opened a couple days actually. They opened everything back up on the 2nd, which was what, Wednesday. And so I've been out and about, but I've been in the grocery store and I've seen like the Mandalorian DVDs or Blu-rays on sale.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I should watch that movie. I was like, I don't know why, but I should just watch that movie. Because I've seen people talk about it big time when it first came out. Like when that thing came out, I was like, everybody was talking about it.
Well,
So
and it's amazing because everybody was really skeptical when it first came out, because the last few Star Wars movies have not been good. Like,
right.
they've not been great. And so everyone's like, yeah, I don't know, like maybe, live action Star, we wanted Boba Fett, didn't get Boba Fett, but we got the Mandalorian, and then it's probably my favorite Star Wars period. Like
Interesting.
Out of any of them. Do you know who Gina Carano is?
Oh yeah, a former UFC fighter.
Yeah, she's in it.
Oh yeah, that's right. She is in it.
She's like one of the top billed actresses in it. She's really good too.
Yep. And she's a real life badass too. So.
Oh, and she is in the show too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd bet if like to see someone like that's in real life, a martial artist and all that, and then do it in a movie, it makes it just much more watchable and like believable. If you know who she actually is, like it's But yeah, back to Christmas movies though. That Elf movie.
Yeah.
Me and Olga never saw Jim Carrey's version of The Grinch That Stole Christmas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so I was like, "Have you ever seen this?" She's like, "No." She's like, "You have?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, it's Jim Carrey. Like, me and Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And I used to idolize that dude. But we were watching it, and it's funny because she's like, you act just like him. Like it is so dude. Crazy.
Yeah.
But that's a good movie. Like I like that Christmas movie, but I got her to watch it for her first time. She's never really seen it before. She was cracking up. That's a good movie. It's pretty funny. Yeah,
that's one of the staples for Marcy's family is Jim Carrey's. And so, funny thing, tie it back to Mandalorian.
Okay.
Ron Howard directed that. Grinch That Stole Christmas.
Oh, okay.
And his daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, is one of the main directors for The Mandalorian. And so he also directed Apollo 13 way back in the day. And for a whole sequence, it's like a solid 10-second sequence in The Mandalorian, she copied a very specific sequence out of Apollo 13, just as like a tribute to her father.
Really?
Which is really cool. So anybody who knew Apollo 13 really well would have caught it right away. Like, oh, this sequence is straight out of Apollo 13. But anyway, to tie that back to Mandalorian,
interesting.
Ron Howard. What really struck me about Elf, and it really encourages me as somebody who wants to make movies. Somebody who has made short films but wants to make feature films.
Right.
Is that the guy that wrote Elf was working in a lingerie factory when he wrote it, and was just trying to find the right people to make it, and that was it. He was a guy who worked in a factory, wrote this script, and then fought for Will Ferrell. That really blew me away. He had a deal on the table, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll make your movie, but we want it to star Chris Farley."
Dude, right? I know. When I heard that, I was like, "No, that would have been not a." I love Chris Farley, hilarious comedian and all that, but no,
he would not have been a good pick. But he was so committed to Will Ferrell, he let the deal go. He wrote out his time and let the deal go, and that's commitment. And honestly, he's probably really glad that he did, because nobody could have played that better than Will Ferrell.
Not at all. And I didn't realize that at that time, Will Ferrell's only like feature movie was The Night at the Roxbury, and it
Right.
yes, never really did well, but it was goofy
No,
movie.
no, he was
But
not a feature film actor, like at all.
no.
He was Saturday Night Live. He was comedy. He was, yeah.
Well, and then he became Frank the Tank in Old School. I found
Yeah.
that. I thought that movie came out like 05, 06 for some reason. That's like one of my favorite comedies.
Mhm.
That movie's so ridiculous. It's so funny. But yeah, The Elf, like that's one of my all-time favorite Christmas movies.
Me
Like,
too.
and I'm not big
Yeah.
into like holiday movies, but
Yeah.
I definitely like that movie because he is so funny in that movie. It is like it's so
Yeah.
ridiculous. This giant dude's an elf.
Yeah, it was really funny, and I watched that just last night, so that was cool.
Yeah, I
You
watched
just watched
it
it last
about
night.
probably well technically today, but I watched it about 11:30 midnight. But I couldn't go to sleep, so
okay.
I watched it.
Yeah.
But yeah, because it was one of the things where like you watch something and it gets over and it has like the 3 at the bottom on Netflix. And then it started playing, and I was like, you know what? I've been wondering about this. So,
Yeah.
but I thought it was very cool, and I'm sure you can appreciate this. Someone who's like makes films, but how they did the sequence of him in the school inside in the chair. He was like
Yeah.
10 foot away offset, and they made it look like he was right next to that little girl.
Yeah, forced perspective.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah,
wow.
it's used a lot more than you think, actually. They used it a lot in Lord of the Rings. They used it a lot in, Elf. I'm sure there's a ton of movies that have done forced perspective. But it's tricky. It's actually really tricky, and it's not as easy as it looks, because one of the problems with forced perspective is when you have an actor, let's say 20 feet away from the camera, you got your other actor like 20 feet behind that person, so they look like they're different sizes. You have to make sure they're both equally in focus, right? Because if you're focused on the guy in front, the guy behind might be a little out of focus. And then same the other way. So you have to make sure that everything's lit properly for the right aperture, and then that they're both in focus. And if you do any sort of movement, like all that needs to line up. And it's really very difficult. But once you get it, it looks amazing. Like in Lord of the Rings, when Gandalf and Frodo were talking, and they're forced perspective. So they're like, it looks like they're looking at each other, but they're actually looking just in front of them, because they're like 20 feet apart or 10 feet apart. They designed this table, so they're shooting at the table, but they wanted to do a panning shot, right? So they wanted to pan around the table, and in order to do that, they had to rig up a table that was connected to the camera that moved, and then the other pieces of the table moved with the camera, so that it all looked like it was connected.
Wow.
So that it didn't give away the fact that they were sitting 10 feet apart. So they had to like rig up this whole system so that in order to get that panning shot, it all moved with each other. Like it's amazing. It is, yeah.
When I was talking about that forced perspective, and the guy, I thought it was funny. The guy was like, oh, it worked. And he's like, of course they were so surprised, but like, of course I knew it'd work. Cause if it didn't, I was fired.
Exactly.
He's like, I was confident going in, and everybody, I knew I didn't want to lose my job. So I did it because I knew it would work, is what he was saying. I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, yeah, I bet. But yeah, I just thought that was so fascinating. It's really cool how they do movies, like stuff that when you see the behind the scenes and you're just like what?
Yeah. And when you hear people saying like, I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't know how any of this worked, it makes me feel better, because I feel that way very often. I'm like, I don't know how it all works. Like, it really makes me wonder, like, how many people in Hollywood who are a part of these big movies, who even make these big movies happen, like, how many of them actually know how a movie gets made, right? Like, when you really when you really break it down, is there even a single person who knows how a movie gets made from top to bottom? And I don't think there is. Like, I think it's a minor miracle that any movie gets made at all, because like, you hear that from people all the time in the industry. Like, I don't know. And like, but somehow it all comes together. Like, it all just happens. And
compartmentalized jobs. Everybody knows
It
how to do
is.
their specific job, and then it all comes together, but no one knows how to do all the jobs, you know?
Exactly. I think that's what it is. It's like, I'm a
Yep.
producer. I don't know how they do all that other stuff. Like, I'm a producer. That's what I do. And yeah, but that's how it has to work. Like, you can't have one person trying to do it all. Like, it's just insanity. Yeah.
I'm sure hearing that though, and I thought of you when I was watching that part. Like I didn't know what to do. Like I don't know. I've never made a movie. Like I thought of you because I'm like, you know what? Someone like you watching that, it's got to give you a lot of hope that
Oh, it
like,
does. Oh my goodness.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
ain't. It's sometimes you don't have to know as much as you think you have to know. Sometimes it's just persistence and a little dumb luck.
Yeah.
Like the
Absolutely.
fact that how they got that movie and everything, it ended up becoming a movie is like, psh, it's
Yeah.
like hitting the lottery. Like the
Yeah.
fact
Oh, it
that
is.
movie actually made it to the silver screen, you know, it's
Yeah.
like,
And I completely agree, you know, and you'd think like watching the final product, like, oh yeah, they planned it all out. Everything was lined up. Everything was good. And like everything went smoothly, and it didn't. You know, they shot guerrilla style for a few days in New York, and the rest of it was shot like, what was it, in an ice rink and
Santa Asylum, or the old
insane
asylum.
right.
That's crazy. I was like, whoa.
And that is movie magic, man. That is. Do you remember that show, Movie Magic, when we were kids? It was like a behind the scenes TV show that went into like how Jurassic Park was made, and yeah, so it was.
I don't know
You
if I
can find it
remember
on
that.
YouTube. Yeah, you can find it on YouTube. And I remember when I was a kid, like little, probably 7 years old, I would watch that show, Movie Magic, and I thought that was what the job was called. Like when you wanted to get into visual effects or special effects, like I thought the job was called movie magic. And so I would like tell people like, yeah, I want to do movie magic. I want to do movie magic. Cause I thought, you know,
Like, what the hell is that?
what's movie magic?
Yeah, it's magical. Movies are magical, but I don't
They
know if
are,
that's a
but,
job.
Did you watch any of the other, like the first series is The Movies That Made Us?
Yeah.
Did you watch any of those?
Yeah, I think I watched one or two of those.
Okay. Those are really
but
good.
I think I watched, you know, the sound. This is like old school reference, but the sound that in Terminator 2 that cop makes when it's like forming into something.
Okay. Yeah.
The sound that they got for that was letting dog food, I'm pretty sure it was dog food, slide slowly out of the can.
I believe that. Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So they,
anybody got any dog food? Like, it's like, how did you even come up with that?
it's amazing. Yeah. But that's those Foley artists, you know, it's those sound designers. It's their job to think like that, you know, like, oh, that sound could work here and that sound could work here. Like in Lord of the Rings, and to reference Lord of the Rings again, the giant squid monster that comes out of the lake in the first movie, a lot of those sounds is they took a plunger into a really shallow creek and they just started shaking this plunger around this like creek bed, and that was the sound of the And they took like really wet rubber mats, like mats that you stand on in food when you work food service and stuff. They wetted them down and they just started like shaking them.
Oh, really?
And that was the sound of the squid monster. But speaking of Terminator, so there's this YouTube channel. I think you would find it absolutely fascinating. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to sound design in film. And this guy broke down some of the audio techniques they used for Terminator Judgment Day, the best Terminator film to date. Like, in my mind, the only true Terminator film. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like,
I concur.
And so the fight between Arnold Schwarzenegger and the T-1000 in the smelting factory or whatever that was.
Oh yeah, dude.
He pointed out when you break down the audio tracks, there's no grunts, there's no moans, there's no sounds, there's no human sounds when they're fighting each other. There's no like there's no breathing, and you're like, oh, that's right, because they're machines. Like, and so you watch that.
Thought about that.
Yeah. And so you watch the clip, and it's very like eerie and creepy because they're going at it, but there's no there's no human sounds.
Dude, you just blew my mind, dude.
Yeah,
Because
it's all just metal on metal. Yeah.
Thought about that. That's so interesting.
Right?
Yeah. Because to make it realistic, yeah, they're not going to be breathing heavy or anything like that.
Yeah. So I thought that was brilliant. I was like, that's genius. That's pure genius.
Wow.
And it's like metal hitting metal when they're like slamming each other against, it's so
I'm about to go back and watch that again because now that I know that, I'm gonna go back and watch it to listen specifically for that. But oh yeah, that's the best Terminator movie. I can't believe how many Terminators they've actually made, and Arnold Schwarzenegger's actually in the latest of them, right?
Yeah, the Dark
reemerged.
Yeah, Dark Fate or whatever it was, which was also another big flop. It didn't do well. Even though it brought back Sarah Connor and it brought back Arnold Schwarzenegger, like it just didn't fare well because the story just wasn't as good, Well,
they're older too, man. I mean, you're talking. The first Terminator was what, like 87?
Earlier, like 84, I think.
Really?
Yeah. First Terminator release date.
Hell, the first two
84.
might be in the 80s. Oh, my
October
goodness.
26, 1984.
Wow.
Yeah, Terminator 2 was like 91.
Was it that much later?
Yeah, Terminator 2 release date. 91, July 3rd, 1991.
Wow, that's a long time to come out with the second one.
It's a little while. Yeah, it took them a little while. I mean,
but it was epic.
They're releasing The Matrix 4 this year, or 2021.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
Believe it or not, Matrix 4 is coming out.
Dude, that's crazy.
I wonder if they've announced a release date yet. Yeah, December 22nd, 2021.
Dag on, man. Another Matrix. It's good timing for it because I'm sure a lot of us feel like we're stuck in the Matrix. In a bad one. Like
yeah, I think we talked about it last week, didn't we? That the machines are actually the good guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
yeah. So speaking of like the movies that made us, because I could talk about how movies are made all day, every day. Like I love it. I really could. And I'd talk your ears off. But the first episode, I think it's the first episode. No, it's one of the episodes of the movies that made us, the original movies that made us on Netflix. They cover Home Alone. And you kind of realize that like Home Alone is a very similar story to Elf. When you have this script that nobody wants to pick up, they finally get a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing putting this movie together. And then like the movie gets switched to a new production. Like actually, the first production company completely shut the movie down, and then they actually said literally, because Fox eventually picked it up, as the first representative, I think it was Paramount, was walking around to the offices, which so you remember the movie 16 Candles?
No.
Like mid 80s movie. It was like one of those teeny bopper. Anyway, so the high school that was used in 16 Candles was abandoned at this point when they made Home Alone. So they opened up this high school for their studios. So they actually shot almost all of Home Alone in the gym, in this gymnasium. And they used the rest of the offices and rooms and stuff in the high school as like the production offices. So Home Alone is basically made in an old abandoned high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they said as like I think it was Paramount, as the first production company was going around to all the offices and telling them, movies shut down, shut it all down, you're done, we're cutting your funding, you guys can leave, blah, 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 blah. The Fox representative, like that, within minutes, was right behind that guy going to all the offices saying, Fox has picked up the movie, like you guys are fine. Like, it's
wow.
Yeah.
It's a high and a low all in the same like 20 minutes. Like, whoa,
yeah. And so it is. Yeah, it's pretty amazing that these things even get made. And so one of the other amazing things was they were using a lot of temp tracks and for the music for the film, and they helped, but they didn't really land the film. And so they said, as directors and producers, they were like, well, okay, we're just gonna go all in. Like, what if we got John Williams to do the music? John Williams did Superman, Indiana Jones, Star Wars. Like,
Oh, wow.
he's the biggest name in composing in Hollywood. And they were like, yeah, what, like, I don't know, what if John Williams, did the music for Home Alone? And sure enough, he did it. He was like, yeah, I'll do it. And so it was the music that really made that film. But just like things like that, you don't know until you ask, right? Like, why not? Why not?
If you don't mind hearing no.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
The worst thing is going to be no, and it's going to suck, but whatever.
Like the fact
got to go for it.
Jimmy the Greek to play the dad in Elf. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. He was in all these really kind of rough roles, before Elf, and he just pulled it off so well.
Yeah, he did. It was good. Yeah, everything in that movie, when you think about it, like, they found the perfect people. Because when they talk about the other people that were going to be playing those parts, you're like, dude, that's not a memorable movie with that other cast.
No.
Chris Farley, not a memorable movie, not a heartwarming, like, holiday movie that will be like a classic. It
would have been like Tommy Boy the Christmas movie, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, one of the funniest movies I think Chris Farley did was Almost Heroes.
Yeah, that was good.
Dude, that is like when the guy's talking into the ear that he had a dude's ear. He's like talking into the ear, and then he's like, "Can you hear me?" And he's like, all of a sudden he comes out of the woods, But just that movie, little stuff like that is what cracks me up.
Oh man,
I mean, yeah, Chris Farley was a great comedial actor, but wouldn't have made Elf a Christmas classic.
No, and Jim Carrey wouldn't have either.
No way.
He would have brought too much Jim Carrey to it, like it would have been Jim Carrey as Elf, not Elf, right?
Yeah, but him doing the Grinch though,
perfect.
Perfect. Like, his big smile and everything, the way even in that costume, the way they got his face all done up and everything.
Yeah.
If like, you can tell, like, he makes that costume fit to, like, his face, like, in a way that's, like, I don't know, the way he expresses himself is, like, so unique in his movies. Like, it's so his facial expressions is, like, to me, what makes him so famous. Like, how he literally can make his face do anything he wants it to.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Like, have you ever seen the movie Me, Myself, and Irene?
Yes. A long time ago. Yeah.
When they're in he first got her and they're in the cop station and he takes his medication and his face is all like, he's all like dried out. He's like, his medication makes him dry. And his face, I'm like, how the hell does he do that?
Oh my goodness.
It is so unbelievable in that movie. That, to me, that part of that movie is like, sums it all up for me of how unique Jim Carrey is with the way he can move his face that makes the things that he does just that much more funnier, in my opinion. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. Cottonmouth. That's the name of the clip.
Yeah, dude, it is unbelievable the way he makes his face look in that clip.
Hang on, I'm watching it right now.
I can picture it because
It looks so. My goodness, it was 20 years ago.
It's grainy, isn't it?
No, like young, like him and. What is her name?
Oh, that's what is her name? Scherzinger. What's the fucking Scherzinger?
Oh, Renee Zellweger.
Renee Zellweger. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that is crazy. That movie was 20 years ago, wasn't it?
2000. My goodness. 20 years ago.
Dude, my 20-year high school reunion is in 7 months.
What?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I graduated in June 1st, 2001.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That's 20 years, dude. Like I've graduated 20 years ago. That's crazy. I don't know. It's weird. Like I don't feel like I'm old or anything. So like I remember just back in the day watching movies about people going to like their, in the movie, I can't name a movie, but there's a couple of examples. I'm sure part of the movie is they're going back to their like 20-year reunions or 10,
right.
even the 10-year reunions, and everybody looks so old.
Right.
They depict everybody's being so old once they go back to their reunion.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm like, that's always the way I thought about it when I was growing up, is like, yeah, when it's like my reunions and all that, I'm gonna be older, but I don't feel older at all. Like it's weird.
I don't.
But my 20-year reunion is in like 7.5 months or 7 months.
Yeah.
What? So weird.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, age is not what I thought it was. Like when I was younger, I expected to, by the time I was 34 to, basically be done accomplishing whatever I wanted to accomplish. It's like, oh, you're 34, you're pretty much done. Or you expect to feel old, and you don't, like at all, and it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Real amazing. Like, just because, like, when we were younger, if you look at like people that were our age when we were younger, like teenagers, somebody that was 38, almost 40, like I am.
Yeah.
You looked at them as like, they're an older person.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, yeah, I got, some aches and pains in my joints and stuff just from doing a bunch of stupid stuff and good stuff, military, all that stuff. But it's just like, I don't feel old at all. I don't feel like I thought I would be at 38 when I was younger, looking at somebody who is my age.
Oh, yeah,
it's so weird to me. And in a lot of ways, I still feel like a kid. I don't feel like I'm like fully grown up, or like, I don't feel like a real adult a lot of the times, I think is what it is. It's weird.
Right. Oh, no.
I don't know what that
here's
is.
An article I just looked up. People who look younger really are aging slower.
Well, I mean,
people who look younger are actually aging slower than. Oh my goodness.
Well, that's why they tell you have your birth age, and then you got like your body age. Like, you go to gyms and all that. Like not a lot of gyms now will ask you it because they probably feel like it's too intrusive. Don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But back in the day when I first started, even when I first started bodybuilding a little bit and getting into that kind of lifting weights at my senior year of high school, because I couldn't play sports. And then years later out of the Marine Corps, like about a year or so before I started competing in Muay Thai, I was getting into bodybuilding, and a lot of gyms you go to, they'll ask you like, do you know what your body age is? And that's a big thing. Yeah. I mean, you want your brain to be okay too. So not getting hit in the head and all that stuff's really great for allowing your brain not to age faster than it should. Absolutely. But your body too, like you can really defy age.
Oh, absolutely.
By eating healthy and taking the right type of vitamins and exercise and just being consistent with that type. I mean, you don't even have to exercise. Go on a 30-minute walk once a day, a mile and a half, and eat mostly good foods for you.
Yeah.
You're going to look great from, later in life.
Absolutely. I think there's a huge mental component to that too. It's, Jeff Spontarelli, like the guy's 65. You'd never guess that looking at him. And he actually says like, yeah, I'm 65 now. And he's like, that doesn't sound right. Old people are 65. He was like, old people are 65. I'm not 65. He's like, what's going on?
It's weird, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think it's really important to think young, not think immature, but think young. Try new things. Constantly be trying new things. Play video games once in a while.
Yep.
Check out new music. Just keep yourself young by constantly just trying new things and experimenting with new experiences. And I think that's a huge thing. It's why young people seem young, I think, is because everything is new to them, right?
Still exploring, yeah.
Yeah, everything's new and everything's exciting and everything's wonderful, and they're not afraid to change up their outfits once in a while and kind of explore their personal style. And I think it's important as you get older to never stop doing that, right? Never stop trying new foods. And studies have actually shown that people who play video games even into their later years are at lower risk of things like dementia and memory loss. Their brains are just healthier because they're engaging areas of the brain that you don't engage on a daily basis, right? And so it's healthy, very healthy, to just play a video game once in a while,
I can't disagree, man. I'll tell you what video games do for me, and I'll tell you, I don't play a lot of video games. I don't either. Yeah. I've never, ever considered myself a gamer, even if every now and then I would get the new Assassin's Creed and waste 2 weeks of my life, which I don't do that anymore. But when I play a video game, I literally don't think about any of my stresses. No matter what they are, financial, mental, whatever is ailing me, I don't think about it at all. I'm thinking about getting that touchdown, playing the UFC game. I play a lot. I think about, how do I beat this person, strategy and all that stuff. How to go to the legs, go to the body. So I'm not thinking about, anything really not thinking about anything other than the game, which, I'm not thinking about anything that I love either. Right. I'm just it gives me a mental break. It really does. And, that's why I fell in love with snowboarding. Same thing as that. When I go snowboarding, dude, I'm not thinking about anything that stresses me out ever when I snowboard. Even when I come off of a crazy run and I take about a 30-minute break, might be lunchtime, I'm still so amped up about what I just did and that I'm on the mountain that I can't believe I'm doing this, that I don't think about any stresses. So it's I need to do more stuff that keeps me from thinking about stress, because sometimes I'm a serious deep thinker, so I dwell on things that stress me out as well.
Yeah, me too.
No good.
No, it's not. You got to take a mental break from those things once in a while.
I agree.
You do. If it's not video games or snowboarding, it's got to be something that you do simply because it's fun, and that's it. No other reason. It's not productive. You're not making money doing it. It's just fun.
Yep.
And you don't need to justify it.
So much fun. Yeah.
I just found this list of the 17 reasons video games, are good for you. Studies show that video games are actually good for us. 1, helps us slow down the aging process. It was found that people aged 50 and older who still played video games had a stabilized or improved mental state. According to the study, a randomized controlled trial of cognitive training using a visual speed of processing intervention in middle-aged and older adults, which was done by Frederick D. Okay, so they played World of Warcraft. Is a complex video game that requires you. Okay. Anyway, yeah. It can be your stress and pain reliever, which you just mentioned. It boosts physical activity when you're playing Xbox 360 Connect or Nintendo Wii. So that's more of the physical games.
Right.
Enhances your social skills, which I do actually believe. According to the research done by Linda A. Jackson and her fellow experts at the Michigan State University's Information Technology Use and Creativity findings from the Children in Technology Project, children who engage in games that are pro-social and friendly tend to have a more positive outlook. Enhances your memory. Let's see here. It improves physical therapy engagement. It makes you a better employee. It keeps families closer. Oh, I thought that was 17 reasons. Did I not click on the right one?
Makes you a better employee. Not me. That one don't work for me.
Yeah, right.
I'm I still come in the same dude. But you know what I wonder?
Huh. That wasn't 17 reasons.
What's the difference if there was a study? When was that study? When did that study come out? Like, when was it done?
Let me look it up. Hang on. This was published. Doesn't say. Yeah, it doesn't say.
Interesting. Because I'm wondering when that was published, because I'm wondering if there's ever was a study done in like the Atari Nintendo phase,
right,
versus like how complex and like lifelike games are now compared to them now, because they're much more. I mean, games are much more interactive now than
oh
they've
my
ever
goodness,
been.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So I
yeah,
wonder if all those statistics would apply even to older games that weren't as much interactive and were more, you know, analog and just,
more just like puzzle games, really. Yeah,
yeah, really just brain teasers you could get on an app now. It was like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
you
I'm sure it'd
know,
be the same thing because you're enhancing your hand-eye coordination, right? You're enhancing your problem-solving skills because that's what video games are. They're problem-solving. You know, it's like, how do I get from A to B? How do I accomplish this? This is my objective. How do I do that? And so I think they're very good for cognitive development, which is why, especially with my children, they're still too young for video games unless it's like a puzzle game on a tablet or something. Like within moderation, I'm never going to be anti-video game with them, you know, because I think it's just unhealthy to deny children, like, yeah, there are parents who are like, no TV, no tablets, no video games, none of it. And then what they end up doing, it's like drugs almost, you know, like you're telling them, no, these things are bad. Mommy and daddy can do them. you
yeah.
know?
So
But
you'll get
can't.
rebellion out of that, you know, and
Right.
that's
And then,
natural human nature is to rebel
yeah,
against something you're never allowed to do. It's so
yeah,
taboo.
right. And so I think having a healthy grasp on, okay, you can have your tablet or a tablet once in a while. You can play a video game once in a while, but you have to pick. Like, which one do you want to do? Do you want to watch a 30-minute TV show? Or do you want to play on, you know, mommy and daddy's tablet for 20 minutes? You know, like you have to pick something. It's not just this free for all, whatever you want, you know, which I could have used more structure like that growing up. But
Yeah, but what if your kid was like playing a video game one day? Either one, Simon, or well, I don't want to say your kid's name, but either one. So you're watching them play one day and you're like, dude, like my kid might be a video game genius, dude. Like they're just really picking this stuff up.
Which they do now. Oh my
They
goodness.
really gravitate towards it. What do you do?
Yeah.
Do you let them indulge in it till they can be in an arena playing for $1 million
I know, seriously.
spot, or do you tell them no, you can't do that as much as you want to? I mean,
I think
what do you
just
like
gotta,
as a parent? What do you think you would do?
You have to explore it, right? Like when you're playing the video game, are you playing it just because you're having fun? Like, is this something? Because nowadays it isn't like playing video games as a career is an option. That was not an option 20 years ago, right? It's really an option now. I think it's just something you have to explore. You have to converse with the child. You know, you have to weigh the options. You know, what do you really want to do with your life? Is this something you really want to do? If this is what you want to do, you need something in your life that's not video games, right? You need to balance it. You need like exercise, physical exercise, because if you're just sitting around playing video games all day, even if you're the best in the world, you're going to fall apart because you're just sitting there. I don't know. I think I'd explore it and I would engage, you know, my children in what they're playing and probably challenge them, you know, like challenge daddy to a video game. But if it's anything like laser tag, they're going to smoke me because I've gone into laser tag arenas in my 30s and those kids, they just wipe the floor with me. Oh my goodness.
You know, it's amazing the evolution of things and how the next generation is typically always better than the last generation. And one of the most drastic changes I see is in two things that I've witnessed in my lifetime that I've seen progress from the time I started, which I never did MMA, but I think MMA has evolved faster than any other sport that's ever been created. It is amazing because of somebody from the 90s when the UFC first started and MMA was starting to like become a known thing, even though it was widely like people hated, like was not into it. They called it human cockfighting.
Right.
To where it is now, like one of those top contenders back then fought even like somebody who's not even, maybe they're in the top 25 today, it would be a real hard go for somebody back then. And the other one that I see that's a huge one is skateboarding.
Yeah.
The kids I see now skateboarding, they're all so good that no one really sticks out as like a phenom anymore.
Right.
Because they're all incredibly good. Like I watch skate videos all the time and I'm just like, if somebody was doing that when I was a teenager, like no one would be able to beat them.
No,
like but everybody's doing it now. Like,
yeah. And I think a lot of that comes down to like the mastery of a skill over time, right? Previous generations do a lot of the learning for you, right? And so nowadays, especially with like YouTube, how do I do a kickflip? Well, let me YouTube it. Like, let me just look it up. And then you're just like, here are the tips. Like if you're goofy footed, if you're regular footed, like, and so instead of getting out there and just figuring it out for like days on end, you just YouTube it. And then I'm not saying it's that easy, but you can pick things up a little faster, than you could when we were kids. Like you couldn't just Google you couldn't Google anything.
Couldn't Google it didn't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You had to watch those skate videos and slowly like figure it out. Like, how are they doing that? And then maybe somebody who can do it and they teach you,
That's where a lot of my stuff came from, was just running into someone like, oh, that's cool. How'd you do that? What is that?
Right.
Like,
or
getting a hold of an old Thrasher VHS, or a magazine.
I remember those. Oh,
you know what I mean? Like,
and they would break it down with like all the stills, it's like doom, here's how you,
down the stairs, you can see it, and you're just like, whoa. Like now, I remember when I was 23 years old, and in the 90s, Tony Hawk Pro Skater came out, late 90s, I think. And I remember probably,
which they just remastered. Did you know that?
What?
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Yes, dude. And I've checked. I wanted
remaster. Yeah.
I want to buy it so bad on my Xbox, but I'm not going to because I ain't making steady cash right now. But so where was I? I just lost my train of thought.
So Tony Hawk's Pro Skater came out. You were 20.
Oh yeah. So Tony Hawk Pro Skater came out, 98 or something like that, late 90s. And then it was like 2004, 2005. I grabbed a skate after I got out of the Marine Corps. I picked up a skateboard again and started skating, and, was getting back into it pretty heavy. And I'm at the skate park and I'm like asking, there was like these younger kids, they were like late teenagers. And I was like, just curious. I was like, how do you guys learn how to do your tricks? And he's like, I just play the Tony Hawk game. And I was like, what? Like, it felt so weird to me that was a thing that I'm like, yeah, but duh, that makes sense. Kind of. But I was like, he was like, I just learned from the video game. And I was like, wow, I was blown away. I just remember skating around the park, just like, I kept thinking about it and thinking like that was never an option for me when I was learning how to do a kickflip. Like, and when I learned how to do a kickflip, it wasn't like that new of a thing. It's not like it's been around for 40 years like nowadays,
Right.
Because I think the first time I got on a skateboard was like probably 89. I was like second, third grade. First time I ever set foot on a skateboard. So So I just aged myself, didn't I, dude? Not supposed to know that.
Speaking of aging yourself, we're not old, by the way, by any stretch, by any standard. We are not old. I watched this interview on YouTube, and if you're interested, I can send it to you. It was recorded in the mid 70s, I think maybe 78, maybe 75, something like that. And it was an interview with a 98-year-old woman back in the 70s. And she talked about growing up in the late 1800s and how different, right? So you have this full color audio video interview with somebody who grew up in the 1800s. Like, it just kind of blows your mind that that exists. And so she was talking, I think one of the lines from the video that somebody quoted in the comment section below, because it was a long video and I didn't finish it, was when I was a teenager, I didn't have any worries. I wasn't afraid of anything, basically. Because back in, before the information age, even before like the Industrial Revolution, if your little world, right, your neighborhood, your town, like if everything was good in your little world, everything was fine. You didn't know what was going on in the rest of the world. Like, you had no concept of what was going on. If everything was good for you, everything was fine.
Good.
No worries, like no concerns. And nowadays we don't have that at all. Like, you hear about everything that goes wrong in the world all the time.
All the time, dude. It's too much.
Yeah. It is too much. I think it is too much. Yeah. But, they asked her, like, how did you, and this is somebody asking her this in the 70s, how did you get your information? How did you guys share information? She said, well, everybody wrote letters. If you didn't get it from a newspaper or a book, you got it from a letter. You didn't have radio. You didn't have news, Wow. That's how you got your news. It was letters. And so it's pretty amazing. Yeah.
It's real. What's crazy is, like, when I was in boot camp, I wrote letters.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that long ago that, like, it's crazy since 2000 how the way people communicate is vastly different than just the year 2000.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, like, when I was in boot camp, I was writing letters. Like, they're on Facebook in boot camp nowadays. It's insane to me. I'm like, you shouldn't have Marine Corps boot camp. It drives me nuts, because I'm like, I'm a Marine. Marine Corps boot camp is 13 weeks of supposed to be hell. Okay. And there is a method to the madness, because when I hit Iraq, a couple situations, it was like nothing too hairy, but it was just like, in that moment, a couple things made sense. Like, oh, this is why they're constantly yelling and screaming at you and producing all these high stress situations in boot camp, because one day, and they continue that through certain training, depending on what your MOS is, how stringent it is. But I mean, when you go through the gas chamber and all that, you got to go through all these instructions, take your mask off, take your mask on. And if you breathe a little bit of that gas in, you swear you're going to die.
Right.
But you're not. Yeah. But the fact is they do that because when shit really hits the fan, it makes sense. Like SEALs training. I mean, come on. I mean, it's like crazy, but but nowadays I hear about Marine Corps boot camp and I'm like, makes me furious that they don't shine boots. They don't press camis. They are posting stuff on Facebook when they're in boot camp. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
The world is supposed to disappear for you, basically. Really?
Dude, you are supposed to be in hell. And that's where you need to be for 13 weeks.
Yeah, I agree.
To call yourself a Marine. Like, there's it just you could tell I'm passionate about it, because it's like, somebody wants to explain, like, what the difference between Marines and the rest is? And I'm like, what? They're like, you join the Army, you join the Navy, you join the Air Force, you become a Marine.
True.
That's it.
Yeah.
Boom. But anyways, just with all the technology and how easily people communicate, it's like nobody really ever leaves home.
No.
Nobody ever really separates from the things they treasure the most to really find full perspective. And you know what? I'm guilty of it nowadays. I very rarely ever disconnect. And that's truth. Yeah. And I should do it more often, so it's like, but I still don't do it while I drive down the road. I don't look at my phone while I drive down the road. I am not one of those people that do that.
Yeah. And it's
not that important.
I think, the newness and excitement of like the smartphone is starting to disappear. It's become such a normal part of our lives at this point that like oh, this is new, it's exciting, it's starting to kind of fade, and people don't really care about them anymore. Because nowadays, like, a new phone comes out, nobody really cares, you know.
You're
Because
not standing in a line for 2 days to
yeah,
get
no,
your iPhone. Yeah.
yeah, nobody, because they all do the same thing now. You know, it almost doesn't matter what brand you buy at all. Like, they all do the same thing, and they all look the same. My goodness, they're all just like black or white rectangles. Like, there's no uniqueness. There's nothing unique about any of them.
Pretty
Um,
much. Pretty much.
yeah, and but I think I'm at least noticing, like, a disconnect from smartphones. Not that people are abandoning them, but they just don't seem to care as much about them anymore. They're not, at least the people in my life, they're not as sucked into them as they used to be, right? Because they've gotten so used to it, it's just a thing. Yeah, you pull it out, you look at it once in a while, you Google something, and then it goes away, and then they go about their day. And, like, I just don't see people sucked in the way I used to, you know?
Oh, I don't know. I wish I could say the same, but I still drive down the road on a daily basis and see people looking at their damn phones and swerving. And it's
Yeah,
just like,
yeah,
that drives me out of my mind, especially when I see someone that's older than me, clearly looks older than me, gray hair, and
yeah,
they can't keep their eyes off the phone while they're driving. And
yeah.
I'm like,
So
you're driving a deadly machine.
that
Like,
phenomena is a real thing.
oh, yeah.
Millennials are actually one of the biggest demographics who are cutting themselves off from social media because they're sick of it. They're tired of it. They don't want to do it anymore. They're tired of the constant comparison. You know, they're tired of living through a screen. And so millennials are actually the people that are quitting social media. Like, they're quitting these things because they just don't want anything to do with it anymore. And it's the older generations who have taken over Facebook, and they're now taking over Instagram, and they're um, like, right?
Old people have taken over Facebook for sure, dude. It
Yes,
is.
exactly.
And you know who else took over Facebook? People that like to write 3 pages as a post.
As a post, I know. It's
Nobody wants to read your story, dude.
nobody does. Like, if you want to
Like,
start a blog on a website, that's fine. But a post is
dude,
supposed. Yeah, I agree.
like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think there are definitely, in my opinion, moments where the phone should just disappear. It should just go away. When you're driving, absolutely. When it's dinner time, put the thing, like, turn the thing off, put it away. Right.
Yes,
When
yes.
you are connecting with your significant other or your children, turn it off, put it away. Like, you don't need it out. I think when you're trying to make a meaningful connection with anybody, put it away, right? Don't even put it on the table. Like, put it in your pocket, make sure it's out of sight. Um, and yeah, I think those are mainly the times that it should just, and don't put it next to your bed.
Yeah, that's a big thing I do
Yeah.
is it's right on my nightstand. But you know what? I have an Apple Watch.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten to the point where when I'm hanging out with dog or eating dinner, I usually take it off now, and I take it off while I'm driving because I get
Good. Yeah.
notifications on my watch. And
Yeah.
even when I'm driving, I just want to take a quick glance, and that's all it
Yeah.
takes to really to hit somebody or wreck
It's
or
true.
whatever.
Yeah.
And me personally, I found that I have avoided a lot of wrecks because I was not on my phone paying attention.
Yep.
Like, people swerving in the other lane, and I'm watching them, and I'm like, oh, here we go. And I start slowing down, or I switch in the other lane, and I avoid a wreck because I'm
Right.
not on my phone or
You're
looking at my
engaged.
watch, or, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I'm engaged in what I'm doing because, like I said, like, you're driving something that's thousands of pounds that could definitely 100% kill anybody that you hit.
Yep.
You're going fast enough, especially, but you hit a pedestrian, like, it's almost guaranteed. If I'm in an SUV, I drive a Jeep Cherokee, like, they're probably going to be dead. If I'm going 40 mile an hour and run up on the sidewalk and hit somebody, they're dead.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, I take full responsibility for the fact that I'm driving a deadly machine everywhere I go.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me how many people don't have head on collisions when you're driving down roads that are like, there's no barriers in between everybody.
No, and
Yeah.
they're
So
so
it's like,
distracted all the time. Yeah.
it's amazingly dangerous just to drive to the
Yeah.
grocery store. It's such a common thing to do And statistically, it's amazing that it's not more dangerous to get in your car and drive down the road.
Yeah.
So, but so I stay off the phone, but I can tell you, it drives me nuts when I see people that are older than me and just don't, they're just so indulged in so like Facebook. Like I see people that I know very well that are 30 years older than me, family members that cannot, I mean, I'm talking 40, 50 posts a day.
Yeah, I know.
You'll see, and like it'll say 1 hour, like 1 hour ago, 1 hour ago, 1 hour ago, and there's like 8 things in a row, and none of them are they're just posting memes that they're searching for, and I'm like, wow,
it's
not good.
It's not good. Well, it's not good for you, right? Like studies have shown that too much social media is really bad for your mental and emotional state. It's
Definitely.
But it was the same thing, back, before smartphones. If you spent all your time watching reality TV or looking at magazines and, comparing yourself to everybody else, and it's the same thing. Like it's that comparison trap of like, well, they look so happy. Well, you didn't see the argument they had 5 minutes before they took that picture, or like you're not in their lives. You don't know how miserable they are, or, yeah. So we just stop comparing yourselves to other people.
It is true, but the thing is, it's shoved in your, when you're looking at a magazine and you get done with an article, 2 seconds later, there's not a new article shoved in your face like the next video.
True, yeah. YouTube. That's true, yeah.
Yeah. So you could just be like, hell with this magazine and throw it down, but like nobody can do that with their phone because you got to call somebody. Everybody asks you for your email today. So it's like, no matter what you do, at least for work, you have to have a smartphone.
You do.
You're connected.
You do. Yeah.
So it's like you almost can't help
the ability to text. Yeah. I've genuinely looked at like going back to like an old BlackBerry or like something. Like I genuinely do not care about smartphones anymore. And I just don't. I think they're cool devices. I think they're nice, but there's not a single day where I'm like, man, I'm so glad I have this.
No.
Like I could go back to the BlackBerry and I'd be just fine. I still have TV, laptop, desktop. Like I would get by just fine.
Oh, of course. Once you normalized it in your life and you took that step back, it'd be just fine. Yeah, I don't know if I could do that, but I'll admit, like, I'm not highly addicted to my phone, but I am on it probably more than I should be. I mean, that's won't deny that.
Sorry, more studies, more stuff, but
have you watched The Social Dilemma though? I know I've asked you that before, but that documentary, it's out, dude.
Marcy and I started watching it. Yeah.
It's heavy.
It is, but it's also as old as time. Like what social media companies are doing, marketing specialists have been doing for easily the last 100 years, right? It's, we're just trying to ping you enough to get you to come back. They're just trying to create repeat customers. Really, that's all it is. Like the people who design these apps, they just want repeat customers. Come back, come back, come back, come back, come back. And that's what Disney has done with Disneyland and all their products. Coca-Cola, cigarettes.
Right.
I mean, marketing, that's what marketing has been. It's create a repeat customer, convince people they need this stuff, and influence them to buy your product and to constantly come back. And that's all that is, really. It's just really good marketing.
It is, but you guys should definitely finish watching it because it is, but the way that they're manipulating people is like never before because of the way they can do it with social media. And the way this guy was describing it is like, you get in like a group on Facebook, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but he was like, you get on it, cause he was this guy that was in that, I forget his name, but he used to work for Google, and he's one of the ones that made the Social Dilemma documentary. He was also recently, right after it came out, on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was talking about it there too. And he was just saying, like, you'll have like groups where like a mom will get in there and like something for moms. I forget what he said, but like something for moms, like a group you get involved in. And then all these other subgroups will get suggested to you, like Mothers Against Vaccinations and all this other stuff.
Right.
And like teenage girls with, they'll search like diets and all that. Then they start getting force fed, like, and force fed, it's kind of a weird thing to say when they bring up diets, they'll start getting force fed videos about anorexia. So that affects the human psyche when like this is not actually what you're searching for, but this is what keeps coming up because so many other teenage girls that were looking for the same thing also looked for that. So because somebody else did, now it's the most popular, they're going to give it to you. And I'm like, you didn't even search for it though. So to me, like, that's like, in a way, like, yeah, it's like a commercial, like, you're not allowed to put up billboards and have commercials for cigarettes anymore.
Right.
Because they realize how really dangerous it is to the youth because they think it's cool. So like to an underdeveloped mind, like they're the ones that are at risk. I mean, did you see the part where they were talking about the uptick in the suicide rates from girls that are 10 to 14 years old? It was like 258% higher than before social media was a thing. And I'm like, what?
Well, I knew.
So that to me is like,
yeah,
crazy that it has that profound effect on people who are indulging in it. I mean, that's like, it's just like, I don't think we've ever seen anything like it. And I don't think that anybody that created these things at first was doing it for that intentions. But I think once they realized that they could do it and it would be that much more profitable, I think nowadays, they realize what they're doing and that it's too late to back off.
Yeah. I think that's a lot of it.
The money's too invested in so many different ways. It's like, you can't just tell your investors, I'm not doing it anymore because it's not right. So
yeah, they're not going to tell their user base to back off because it's not good for them, right? Like, exactly. You shouldn't be using our app because it's bad for you. I noticed a problem with social media back in, I would say it was like 2008, maybe 2009, and probably 2009, when I started a Facebook account because everybody else was doing it. And I would post, once in a while. I didn't have like pictures or anything on there. I didn't really care about that. And family members, like grown adult family members, when I would connect with them later, like we got together once in a while, they would say like, everything okay? Like, you never post on Facebook. Like, you never post anything. Like, like what's going on? Like, you should be posting more. It's like, and I actually remember thinking, why? If you really care about connecting with me, call me. Like, I do not need to post to Facebook. I don't care. You shouldn't care. Yep. And I realized then that this was going to be a problem because it's a false sense of connection. And I think it's nice, that I can get on and kind of see what you're doing once in a while. But I'm not going to convince myself that I've just connected with you because I liked one of your posts, right? No. And I'm not going to ask you, like, Joe, you haven't posted on Facebook recently. Is everything okay? Like, are you good? If I care about you and if I want to like check in on you to make sure you're okay, I'm just going to call you, right?
That's it. You're just, you know what? I'm not going to say anybody's names on here because I'm not, I love them very much, but I've had 2 family members in the last couple of years talk to me, because I'm like, look, I moved from Cincinnati. I feel like I lost my family and my friends. Like, nobody visits, nobody hardly ever calls. Like, you know what I mean? And I've done my due diligence to visit and call and all that. And eventually now I'm like, whatever. But the response I got from one of them was, what are you talking about? You act like I don't care. Like, I've liked plenty of your Facebook posts. Like,
How much effort does it take to like a post?
Dude, I was like,
yeah,
like dumbfounded. Like, what?
yeah.
Like, and I had another family member who's older, much older than me,
Yeah.
say this similar, almost the same thing. Like, you know, I comment on your post on Facebook. Like, I like them. Like, I do connect with you. And I'm like, that's not connecting.
It's not.
Like,
No.
calling somebody and asking them, hey, how are you doing? Like, what's going on in your life? Like, that's making a connection. I mean, the ultimate connection you can make with anybody is face to face, if that's possible.
Yeah.
But I think the next best thing is to hear someone's voice,
Yep.
hear their tone, hear their emotion in their voice of whatever they are talking or describing to you.
Yep.
That's the next best thing. And people don't do it anymore. And it was like, almost like I was the asshole for being like, you never connect with me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just, it was mind blowing. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm just old school now. I don't know. Like if I really want to know how someone's doing, I call them.
Yeah.
Period.
I agree. Yeah.
Or at least I'll shoot a text and be like, hey, what's up? Or how you doing? Like, are you available? You know, if I'm busy or something,
It's
I'll
a
shoot a
direct
quick
connection
text.
versus a comment on some public feed. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I had plenty of people that I thought might call me when I proposed to Olga, and I made a post just because I wanted everybody to know. But I was amazed that you and Matt are the only two that actually called me.
Really?
And I was like mind blown by how many people, hey, do you guys know when you're getting married? And I mean, I'm talking people I'm close to who have my number.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not communicating with you like this. Not happening.
Yeah.
Like, you want to know? You want to be a part of it? Just call, dude. Like, don't be weird.
I agree.
But yeah, you and Matt, the only two that actually called me and was like, what's up? You know, it's weird. I don't know. It's the world we live in nowadays. I have a hard time dealing with it, but whatever.
Yeah. I had hoped that all this COVID stuff, we're getting back to COVID. We should call this here in a minute.
Yeah, for sure.
I had hoped that all this COVID stuff and social distancing and all of it would actually remind people about how much they love personally connecting. And I think it's had the opposite effect. I think people are totally fine living in their little holes, interacting with the world through screens. And I can't stand it. I can't live like that.
No.
You know,
it's weird how in this COVID thing, how scared a lot of people are, but how comfortable people are with just staying blocked off from everybody else, no social interaction. It blows my mind how comfortable people have been with it. And it's like social media was the precursor to us being locked down during COVID.
Yep. I agree.
Wow. That's it, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, no, man. Till next time.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching this episode of Same Mom, Different Dads. Today we talked about filmmaking and video games, and we did eventually end up talking about COVID because it's 2020. Man, 2021. Should we just not even bother with 2021? Should we just skip to 2022?
I don't know, man. You know, I saw a meme that said, what if 2021 said to 2020, hold my beer?
Right. Yeah,
I was
seriously.
like, no, don't do that.
Flying sharks. That's going to be the next big thing. Yeah, so this is Joe.
Right here. Yeah, somewhere up.
Anyway, thank you. Have a good day, night, time, week, and we will see you later. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I can't forget to say that. So
don't forget. Thank you.
And bye.